I never imagined my marriage would fall apart the way it did. My wife and I were together for 14 years, married for 10, with 2 young kids aged 6 and 4. She was my partner, my confidant, the person I trusted most in the world. But over the past year, I discovered she had been having an affair, a betrayal that shook me to my core. It all started so innocently. We became close with another couple who had kids the same age as ours. They lived nearby, and our families hit it off. We began spending time together, watching each other's kids, sharing dinners, and going out as a group. My wife and the other husband naturally grew closer since they were the ones primarily taking care of the kids while I worked long hours. I didn't think much of it at first. She had always been someone I trusted completely. Around the same time, my wife began struggling with her mental health. She started seeing a counselor, working out, and losing weight. She even suggested couples counseling, but since I thought we were doing fine, I brushed it off. Our marriage seemed stable, even intimate. We still had sex regularly, and our routines felt solid. But beneath that surface, something was shifting. Subtle signs of distance started appearing, like the vibrators she bought without telling me and hid away, or the fact that she began to spend more time on her phone. These were small things, but they planted seeds of doubt. Still, I didn't want to believe she could betray me. After all, we had built a life together, and I thought we were happy. But I was wrong. So very wrong. As the months passed, cracks in our marriage began to widen. My wife's relationship with the other husband grew more noticeable. They seemed to click in ways that made me uncomfortable, but I told myself it was just a close friendship. Then came the first real sign that something was off. During a family trip in July, she admitted that the other wife had discovered a long text thread between them. She downplayed it, calling it innocent and explaining that any "I love yous" exchanged were just jokes. She even offered to show me the messages, half-heartedly, as if daring me to decline. And I did. I trusted her, or at least I wanted to. But things didn't feel right after that. Her behavior grew secretive. She became defensive about her privacy, insisting that her phone and conversations were off-limits. She started spending more time with him under the guise of errands and playdates. When I expressed my unease, she reassured me they were just friends. Yet my gut told me otherwise. I became obsessed, checking her movements, noticing inconsistencies, and catching glimpses of behavior that didn't add up. Then came the blow I couldn't ignore. The other wife called to tell me the truth. My wife and her husband had been speaking constantly, early morning phone calls, late-night chats, even during lunch breaks, hours every day. It was a level of emotional intimacy far beyond friendship. When I confronted her, she finally admitted to some of it, blaming her depression and unhappiness in our marriage. She insisted it wasn't physical, just emotional. But the lies kept piling up. Weeks later, during a therapy session, she claimed they'd stopped all communication. I wanted to believe her, but her actions didn't match her words. Late one night, I discovered sensual selfies in her photo stream. They were unlike anything she'd ever shared with me, pictures full of longing and desire. She was sending them to him. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I'd experienced before. She had hidden so much, using secret apps to keep their affair going even after she swore it was over. Finally, the full truth came out. The affair wasn't just emotional, it was physical. They had been meeting in secret, sleeping together when I thought she was running errands or spending time with friends. She had even gone to his house the first time with a prepared alibi, taking a picture with a friend to cover her tracks. Every piece of evidence I uncovered only confirmed what I already feared. She had betrayed me in every way possible, and worse, she had no intention of being honest unless forced to. By this point, I was emotionally wrecked. Therapy felt futile because she refused to take the steps needed to rebuild trust. She wouldn't share passwords, stayed guarded about her devices, and even continued texting him under the radar. My suspicions of her continued involvement with him, or even someone new, only grew. I was left questioning everything. How could the person I loved and built a family with deceive me so thoroughly? The final unraveling of our marriage began with a single, unbearable truth. I could no longer trust her. Despite her promises to end things with him, the lies continued. She confessed only when there was no other option, when the evidence was undeniable. Each new discovery felt like a dagger. The physical affair, the secret messages, the sensual photos. Every piece of it was a deliberate betrayal. I started to piece together the full scope of what had happened. Their affair had started months earlier, even before I suspected anything. She turned off her location-sharing app to hide her whereabouts, hired babysitters under false pretenses, and went to his house while I was working late. She even made excuses to avoid suspicion, going so far as to fabricate an alibi with staged photos. The level of planning and deceit was overwhelming. As I uncovered more, I realized her remorse seemed shallow. She claimed to feel crushed by what she had done, but her actions didn't match her words. Even after attending therapy together, she kept her phone and computer locked, prioritizing her privacy over transparency. How could I forgive someone who refused to take even the most basic steps toward rebuilding trust? I decided to confront her one last time, laying out everything I knew. I told her about the pictures, the secret app, and the ongoing lies. I told her I couldn't live like this anymore, constantly wondering what else she was hiding. She cried and apologized, insisting she wanted to make things right. But then, the very next day, she went to his workplace. She claimed it was for closure. But how could I believe that? Every apology felt hollow, every promise empty. Her actions left me no choice. We agreed to separate. At first, it was just a physical separation, moving bedrooms and living like roommates. But the holidays came, and the distance between us became unbearable. The pain of pretending everything was normal for the kids while knowing our marriage was over was excruciating. The tipping point came during our final family vacation. It was supposed to be a celebration for our son's birthday, but I couldn't escape the growing resentment. Every time I looked at her, I saw the lies, the betrayal, and the person she had become. She spent much of the trip on her phone, texting and withdrawing emotionally. It was clear that our marriage was no longer salvageable. In January, I filed for divorce. It was both a relief and a heartbreak. I had loved her for so long and had built my entire life around our family. But the person I had married no longer existed. She had become a stranger, someone capable of deceit, manipulation, and disregard for the vows we had made. The day she moved out marked the end of a chapter one had never imagined closing. For the first time in over a decade, we wouldn't be sharing a home or a life. As sad as it was, it also felt like the weight of her betrayal had finally been lifted. We worked hard to keep things amicable for the sake of our children. Custody arrangements came together smoothly, and we agreed on a plan that prioritized the kids' stability. I knew we'd have to see each other regularly as co-parents, and I wanted to keep things civil, if only to spare the kids more pain. But deep down, I also knew I needed distance to begin healing. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I leaned on friends, stayed busy with work, and started therapy to process everything I'd been through. The pain of her betrayal lingered, but I slowly began to see a future for myself. A future where I could move on, learn from this, and find peace. I still catch myself reflecting on the good times we had, the years of love and happiness before everything fell apart. I don't think I'll ever fully understand what changed in her or in our marriage to lead to this outcome. But I've realized that clinging to those memories won't help me move forward. I'm determined to focus on what matters most, my kids and my own happiness. This chapter of my life has ended, but it doesn't define me. I'm ready to start anew, even if the road ahead is uncertain. If you've gone through something similar, remember that it's okay to grieve, to feel lost, and to not have all the answers. Take it one step at a time. Healing isn't linear, but it is possible. If you found this story meaningful or helpful, subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content on navigating life's challenges. Let's grow stronger together.